Now let's move on this last point at the regulatory framework. Let's look at what is going on this side, both in the EU and also in Brazil. We will have a session, a lab session now, with both an actor, Caroline Wellemans from the EU, sharing what is the EU agenda on that, and also Diogo Nogueira from the Brazilian Central Bank, who will explain how it is done there on the regulatory side in Brazil.
Yes, thank you, Cécile. Hello, and welcome to our session on Financing Our Future, Financing a Global Green Deal. My name is Klaus, and I head the Financial Sector Development Department at the GIZ headquarters. The topic of sustainable finance has moved into the spotlight in the last few years and increasingly appears on agendas. The G20 has created a working group on sustainable finance. The EU launched a Green Deal, came forward with an action plan for financing sustainable growth, founded the International Platform for Sustainable Finance, and is advancing work on the green taxonomy. But also Germany successfully launched its first sovereign green bond and recently launched a national sustainable finance strategy. Today, we want to discuss how sustainable finance can be rolled out globally, and my two panelists are Caroline Wellemans, Head of the Sustainable Finance Department at INPA, and Diogo Nogueira, Head of the Deputy Governor's Office on International Affairs of the Central Bank of Brazil. So, Ms. Wellemans, you recently took the position as Head of the Sustainable Finance Department in INPA, and you come straight from the DG for Financial Stability and Capital Markets, where you worked on sustainable finance within the EU. So can you tell us why sustainable finance is so important for the EU?
Yes, and thank you for the invitation. As it was said, indeed, trillions of euros are needed every year to meet the objective of the Paris Agreement and the Sustainable Development Goals. And sustainable finance is one of our strongest assets to help bridge this financing gap. Of course, in the EU, it is vital to reach the target under the European Green Deal. As you know, the European Green Deal is our strategic growth agenda aiming at making Europe the first climate-neutral continent by 2050 and to protect our EU's natural capital and biodiversity. The COVID pandemic crisis has, of course, added to the urgency. Financing needs have become more pressing to build back better, and it's more critical than ever to redirect capital flows towards sustainable activity and to build a strong EU financial system which is much more sustainable. And this requires, as I think also Cécile mentioned, it requires strong legislation, strong financial legislation, robust frameworks, but also a clear transitioning path for business to help financial flow support this overall policy direction. So regulators have a role to play to set the targets, to give direction, provide direction on the direction of travel, and accompanied that by the right frameworks and tools. And in the EU, we have already taken major steps in building a strong sustainable finance ecosystem. Many things have been put in place, such as the Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulation for financial market participants and financial advisors, benchmark regulation, or EU taxonomy regulation. As you know, taxonomy is a central piece of our EU sustainable finance agenda. And more recently, the Commission has proposed also a new corporate sustainability reporting directive to require companies to report reliable and comparable sustainability information. So these actions, as you can see, are the building blocks to enhance transparency and provide investors with the right tool to identify and seize sustainable investment opportunity. This tool will also enable others to be developed, such as an EU Green Bond Standard and an EU label. So the Commission, sustainable finance remains a top priority for the Commission, and we will soon unveil a new strategy, a renewed sustainable finance strategy, which I will invite all of you to look at.
Yeah, thank you, Caroline. The EU indeed has been a leader, and there's more to come. But so now let's turn to the case of Brazil. Mr. Nogueira, you are from the Brazilian Central Bank, and you've been working on enacting sustainable finance policy reform for a few years. So what are your key achievements, your key challenges, and maybe also ambitions?
Thank you, Klaus. Thank you, Caroline. It's a pleasure to be here today. Well, in the case of the Central Bank of Brazil, by bringing a sustainability dimension to our strategic agenda, our key ambition was to include sustainable variables to all decision-making processes of the Central Bank, regardless of their complexity. We want to remain at the frontier of this important topic, this new topic, responding to shocks and risks, present and future, while also responding to the evolution of society's demands. A new dimension helps to better organize our past measures and also plan for future ones on the sustainability front, making it possible to have a more holistic approach to all sustainability endeavors. The added dimension is also helping us to foster change and to lead by example within the national financial system. As we can see that many other players are adopting similar approaches to ours on the sustainability front. And this is great because we all know that tackling climate risks demands a comprehensive and a global answer. Talking a little bit more specific on some measures, we recently released public consultations so as to improve the design of several regulations. Some of them are proposals for the disclosure of social, environmental and climate risk based on TCFD recommendations. We're also addressing the management of such risks, while also introducing a new kind of report of social, environmental and climate responsibility policy reports. We are developing a survey to enhance data collection. And so we are beginning to see many of our measures to flourish. You talked a little bit about, you asked about the key challenges.
Yep.
Well, our key challenges are the same as the other ones that were already mentioned today. We need better data, we need further data, we need further research, but we also need coordination. Coordination is something very important for central banks.
Okay, thank you so much. So we see Brazil has done a lot, but we also see that sustainable finance policy reform is not a box that you can quickly check. So now, Caroline, you're heading the new unit in charge of sustainable finance policy of the DG INPA. So what are your plans for outside the EU?
Yeah, yes, indeed, and thank you. And yes, indeed, global challenges call for global responses and can only be tackled all together. So global coordinated action is required, as mentioned, and more and on a much greater scale than in the past for achieving our collective climate and environmental objectives. Financial markets are global and they have the great potential to help finance global recovery, a global transition by linking local financing needs to global sources of funding, of course, but this potential remains clearly untapped. Scaling up sustainable finance globally remains challenging, and it is even more challenging in developing countries. So this new unit, there is a new unit dedicated to sustainable finance policy within Directorate General International Partnership, which was created in January, tribute to the strategic importance of this topic. And the objective is to scale up to enhance the EU's ambitions to scale up sustainable finance globally and help all partner countries to scale up not only finance, but sustainable finance, attracting local and international investors towards sustainable investment. And dialogue, cooperation and strong partnership between authority, between corporate and the financial sector and social partners are vital. And this is why, and this needs to happen within jurisdiction and across borders. already in active dialogue with our partners to build a strategy that will support the SDGs, the achievement of the SDGs and the Paris Agreement objective, sharing our experience and best practices. We are also
Thank you very much. Thanks, Caroline. We unfortunately have to close down, but it's an exciting discussion that I hope to continue together with you. The EU has very ambitious goals for international cooperation, but also the tools to reach these goals. And so what I want to conclude with is that we clearly see with the case of Brazil and also the project that GSS has been supporting in Brazil, that knowledge exchange and technical assistance will be crucial to further advance the sustainable finance agenda in our partner countries. But we see that big funders like the EU and implementing agencies like mine, the GIZ, are committed and ready to do the work. So thank you very much for your attention. And over to you, Cécile, at the studio. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Klaus, Caroline, and Diego. This is short but fascinating and to the point on what we can do with the regulatory framework and how this can really shape also the change that needs to happen with leading example. So you'll be leading by example, basically, in doing that. So many thanks for that. We will now go into a break, a break for 10 minutes, and then we'll come back here for another session. And thanks a lot to all your input.